Hello everyone and welcome to this new episode of my Turkish campaign in HOI4 with a Total War mod. So the day I'm recording this narration, my brain is mentally exhausted, and in this video I will try a different approach. So instead of thinking with the third person view, I would like just to tell you in the after action report style. So the year is 1941 and Turkish diplomacy thought that it was now the time to warn the Syrian and governments of Iraq that a future offensive may be launched. This was because my plan in 1941 was to hope that the Italian armed forces could at least try to hold in Ethiopia as much as possible in order to divert as many British and French and Belgian and Allies and whatever troops along the Ethiopian border, so that the newly reformed Ottoman army could strike in their back and force them to capitulate. This unfortunately did not happen, as the Italian in Ethiopia just collapsed in a matter of days, and they kind of barely tried to hold along the Libyan border. And as I thought that maybe Greece would join the Allies, because I think now Greece was already at war with the Axis, I decided to deploy those, let's say, recruit infantry divisions on the two coastal provinces which are directly linked to the Greek territory, as well as on the Turco-Greek border. The decision was immediately revoked, as the Bulgarian forces immediately penetrated into the region of Thessaloniki, and this helped me in redirecting at least two infantry divisions in this Turkish Second Army, which was deployed along the Syrian border. And the fact that the Italian capitulation, which happened much earlier than my expectations, I think that allowed the French forces to redirect at least 9 or 10 divisions along the Turkish border, because maybe the Syrian government felt that something was coming, and indeed something came. It was March of 1941 when the newly Turkish government, the new fascist government of Turkey, declared war against Syria. Syria was part of the Allies, and this of course triggered a terrifying and awful chain reaction by which the whole Allied faction was at war with Turkey. And indeed, as soon as my government, basically my Ottoman Turkey, declared war against Syria, as you may have seen, a shit ton of Allied divisions came to reinforce the Syrian front, and in some cases they managed to hold the Ottoman army at bay. And despite the fact that the Ottoman army was enjoying a complete control of the air, the Allies tried to counterattack. They even defeated the Ottoman army in late April, but in the end, I think that quality mattered. Quality and control of the air mattered. And in this regard, I have to say that while most of the attention was focused on the Syrian front, it's true that the Greeks managed to push England, but the Greek offensive was immediately stopped by the combined reinforcements coming from Germany and Italy. And in an effort to let's say unlock the stalemate which arose in the Syrian front, I decided to push towards the south to basically trap in a huge, well, not so huge, but in one of my famous encirclements, the bulk of the Allied armies. And the idea was, okay, we encircle them, so we prevent them from falling back furthermore, and in this way we could maybe alleviate the pressure on the Italian army fighting in Egypt. And the plan succeeded for most of it. The only limitation of the plan is that the Allies could evacuate most of their troops via the Beirut port. And this completely messed up my plans, because I thought, okay, maybe I can reach Beirut first, I can destroy the Allies there, but no, this was a race against time, and the Allies, I must say, they won it. So as a plan B, I redirected most of my mobile divisions, which, I mean mobile, I mean my 3-4 cavalry units, in attempting a kind of a second pincer movement, which miserably failed, as surprisingly, again, the Allied forces not only stopped the spearhead of my offensive, but they also pushed my units back. And at that time I felt like, oh my god, now this is gonna end like it happened in my first attempt with China, in which I was just tricked and fooled and overwhelmed by the AI. But this turned out to be not the case, as for some unknown reasons the Allied AI, let's say, had to redirect some troops along the Italian border. And this weakened, of course, the Syrian front, and you all know from history what happened when you are fighting a two-front war. You just cannot manage it. And this happened to the Allies, who were, to the Allied army, which were defeated and, let's say, severely beaten in the pocket which occurred northeast of the Caspian Sea, in which more than 25 Allied divisions were trapped and annihilated. And in a second pocket, what remained of the Allied army was just wiped out of the Allied order of battle. And in late July, early August, the Ottoman forces now controlled the right bank of the Suez Canal, and by mid-August, one mounted division and a couple of infantry divisions managed to gain a spearhead, a beachhead, sorry, on the other side of the Suez Canal. But any further attempt to break out of this breachhead proved to be unsuccessful. And this is the time that I realized, okay, maybe I could do something else. I could move my second army on the Italian front, because if I can't push out of my breachhead, maybe if I push from the west towards the El Alamein front, maybe I could get a breakthrough. And moment of suspense, please, because I think this is what happened. So I don't know if the Allied divisions were caught off guard, but probably they were, because as most of the Allied troops were concentrated on the, let's say, eastern part of the narrow Egyptian corridor, I would say, it was really a walkover. It was like eating a slice of cake for my units to just break through the El Alamein front and race towards the south. And even though my cavalry units were not, let's say, fast enough to encircle the enemy, they still managed to make a very tiny pocket in which another dozen of Allied divisions was wiped out. And with this, let's say, the bulk of the Allied armies fighting in Egypt was finally wiped out. And it's the year 1941, and in 1941 Nazi Germany declared war against the Soviet Union, and this, of course, led to many attempts to ask the Turkish government to join the war against the Soviet Union. But I felt that Turkey and the Ottoman army was just not ready for this, and to avoid any issues with supplies, in late September, I think it was, I kindly asked the Axis government to get out of my way, basically. Yeah, to retire all the units, because I wanted to fight my war on my own. And before going against the Soviet Union, which was now fighting desperately against the combined German, Italian, Hungarian, and Romanian forces, I declared war on Iraq, just to make sure that no other Allied divisions would have came across Iraq and invaded my southern front via Iraq. And the decision to declare war against the Soviet Union became more and more realistic as the, say, Operation Barbarossa got bogged down. So within me it maturated the idea of, okay, let's declare war against the Soviet Union as soon as possible. This plan, however, was heavily frustrated, first of all by the slow progress of the invasion of Iraq and then the invasion of Saudi Arabia, which took much longer than my expectations. Honestly, I was thinking that maybe my cavalry divisions would have been much more mobile and much faster, but no. It seems that horses don't like the desert, they don't like this kind of hot environment and stuff like that. Worse than that, despite the previous efforts to shrinken the Allied armies in Egypt, the Italians once again proved that they're only good in the kitchen and cooking spaghetti and pizza, because those few British divisions which survived the Ottoman onslaught in Egypt, they pushed the Italians back. It's okay, it's true that most of the Italian troops was redirected on the Eastern Front, but still, I just could not believe my eyes when I was looking at the map and seeing that the Italians were being pushed back again. And I was like, no, this can't be possible. And sadly, this was very possible. And not only the Italians were being pushed back, but Operation Barbarossa stalled. The Axis advance was really stopped at the gates of Smolensk, even though the Romanians managed to capture Kiev. And yeah, the year 1941 ended with this. So with the Ottoman First Army poised to invade the Soviet Union, while the Second Army was almost forced to was redeployed urgently along the let's say Syrian border. And yeah, this left me a bit puzzled on when to declare war against the Soviet Union, but this is something that will come up in the next episode. Guys, thank you very much for watching, and see you all very, very soon, hopefully.